Hello, Internet, and welcome to this week's edition of 1 Minute Answers from 1 Minute Economics, a vacation edition with the topic of disaster preparedness in the spotlight. But before getting started and answering the 4 questions I have lined up for today, I want to do the following. 1, I want to pick the topic for next week, and the topic for next week is going to be democracy. Now, if you live in a Western country, you kind of take democracy for granted, but as the recent situation with the relationship between China and North Korea has illustrated, in a lot of places in this world, democracy does not exist. And as such, feel free to ask me any questions at all about democracy, about the pros or even the cons, if you will, about the economics behind democracy, and so on. Number 2, I want to remind you guys that my new book is almost finished, so if you're interested in this week's topic in disaster preparedness, you're going to find my book interesting because I basically teach people how to prepare for economic storms, if you will. And if you think you're going to find my book interesting, or if you simply want to support the channel, please head on over to 1minuteeconomics.com and subscribe to my newsletter by typing in your email address. It only takes 5 seconds. That being stated, I think we can get started. For today's first question, Sorin would like to know what people are likely to use in the event of an economic crash. Cash, precious metals, or barter. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to say that cash is the preferred approach for the simple reason that it's so darn convenient to use, and why not? It's why we currently use cash for day-to-day transactions and not barter or precious metals. With that being stated, though, I want to say that on the positive side, there is, historic evidence that points to the fact that more likely than not, an economic crash is not going to put an end to currencies, and as such, we're going to be able to continue using cash. But it is worth noting that cash is primarily confidence-based, and for this reason, there may very well come a time when people will lose confidence in paper money, and as such, they will end up deciding between methods such as precious metals or barter. Now, what they'll end up using is, I think, culture dependent, because, for example, the two of us are from Romania, and in, let's say, rural areas in Romania, I for one don't see people using precious metals. Therefore, in this specific example, barter is more likely than precious metals. However, there are lots of regions in the United States in which people are accustomed to precious metals. The same thing can be said about India, about China, and so on. So I would say that, again, the reaction to an economic crash that's also going to be accompanied by a loss of confidence in currencies is most likely going to be culture dependent. The second question for today has been asked by Jishnu, and it's not related to disaster preparedness, but I'm going to do my best to help anyway, and he would like to know how personal bankruptcy works. He would like me to explain it in simple terms. And it's important, I believe, to start with the fact that it varies greatly from country to country, and in a lot of places, personal bankruptcy is not even an option. But where it is, the general idea is that the person in question is allowed to catch a break by, broadly speaking, doing one of the following. 1, starting over with a clean slate, something that in the United States, for example, is referred to as Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and that you say, okay, there's no end in sight for me, I have to find a solution, it's time to start fresh. And this is, if you will, the extreme option. Another option, the more flexible one, is the one that people in the United States call Chapter 13 bankruptcy, or in other words, the idea of saying, okay, I'm going to pay at least something back, I'm going to try to work something out with creditors under the supervision of the court, and in the end, creditors will be happier than in the event of a, let's say, Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and I'm going to stay afloat financially. Now, the good thing with personal bankruptcy is that it enables people to basically get a second shot. However, there are negative consequences involved, such as, for example, the bankruptcy in question remaining on your record, if you will, for an extended period of time, and therefore certain entities might decide to no longer lend you money, do business with you, and so on. But yeah, nothing in this world is perfect, and I think personal bankruptcy is a good option to have. Today's third question was asked by Bill, who wants to know what would happen if a solar flare would wipe out all electronics. What would happen to the economy? And the most important thing to realize is that even if we lose access to technology, humans are still going to be humans. We're still going to have to eat. We're still going to require shelter. Things are still going to break, and as such, economic activity will not cease to function just because we lost access to technology. Crops will continue to grow, even if, at a less efficient pace, and all in all, we humans are probably going to figure out a way to make it work. Now, at the beginning, I expect there to be quite a shock, especially in countries like the United States where people are not accustomed to the idea of systems not working, but in the end some kind of a balance will be reached. So yeah, for example, you can expect chaos at the beginning, barter situations, all sorts of stuff like that, but in the end I fully expect, if you will, some kind of a civilization framework to resume. Will it be the same framework as before? That depends on what's going to happen, but the bottom line is this. Even if we're going to end up dealing with something unprecedented in terms of access to technology, I believe that humans have what it takes to adapt. Even if it means taking several steps back, we're going to find a way to do it, in my opinion. The fourth and final question for today was asked by Ivan, who would like to know how you can prepare financially for a natural disaster. Now, I don't think people need to necessarily have a specific plan for natural disasters unless, of course, they're living in regions where natural disasters are quite common. But with that stated, I do believe that your general preparedness framework needs to include measures that make you adaptable in the event of natural disasters. So what I mean is that the name of the game, in my opinion, of course, is being more resilient in general. And this means, of course, being prepared for natural disasters. It means being prepared for an economic crash. It means being prepared for civil unrest, political issues, and so on. But all of this needs to take place in a general framework of resilience. So, yeah. You should think about natural disasters. You should, of course, be adaptable, and being resilient in and of itself means being able to withstand natural disasters and land on your feet, if you will. But in my opinion, again, the name of the game, unless, of course, you're living in a region where it's a pretty much certainty that you're going to end up dealing with natural disasters. For the most part, for most people, the overwhelming majority, the name of the game is becoming more resilient in general. And actually, an important section of the book I'm working on right now is going to be about just that. That's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in to yet another edition of 1 Minute Answers from 1 Minute Economics. And remember, the topic for next week is democracy, so feel free to ask me about the pros of democracy, about the economics behind democracy, about, if you want to, the cons of democracy, and so on. Number 2. As mentioned previously, my new book is almost finished, so if you can, please give me not 1 minute, not even 10 seconds, but more likely 5 seconds of your time by heading over to 1minuteeconomics.com, typing in your email address on that page, and subscribing to my newsletter. I promise I won't spam you. I will simply let you know when my book goes live. As always, please like my videos, comment, be active in the community, and subscribe to 1 Minute Economics if you haven't by now. Also, if you can, try to develop the habit of continuously telling your friends and contacts about the channel, because even if you don't have a lot of Twitter followers, Facebook friends, and so on, every bit of exposure helps. And of course, those who can afford to and want to support the channel financially as well can do so by buying my Wealth Management 2.0 book or donating through PayPal, Bitcoin, or Patreon. Thanks a lot, guys, and have an awesome weekend.